Some mysteries in criminal history remain forever unsolved, their secrets locked away in the annals of time. These cases, cold and dormant, continue to fascinate and haunt us, defying explanation and resolution. None more chilling than Jack the Ripper, a name synonymous with terror and the macabre. In the autumn of 1888, as the leaves turned brown and a chilling fog descended upon London, a series of events unfolded that would forever stain the city's history. A shadow haunted London's gaslit streets, a predator lurking in the darkness, forever to be known as Jack the Ripper, preying on the vulnerable in Whitechapel, a district rife with poverty and despair, where life was cheap and shadows were deep. The city, a symbol of progress and empire, a beacon of Victorian grandeur, masked a dark underbelly of social inequality and hidden horrors, was shaken by a series of savage murders, each more gruesome than the last, sending shockwaves through the very foundations of society. The victims, all women from the poorest district, scraping by on the margins of society, became symbols of the era's brutal realities, were killed with shocking brutality and precision, leaving behind a trail of terror and unanswered questions that continue to plague us to this day. Panic swept through London, gripping the city in a vice of fear, as residents lived in constant dread of becoming the next victim, as the killer taunted authorities, sending letters and clues that mocked their efforts and deepened the mystery, exposing the city's darkest corners and the limits of Victorian order, revealing the stark contrast between the era's supposed civility and the grim reality of its underclass. The Ripper's identity remains unknown, lost to the mists of time, fueling endless speculation and debate, fueling endless speculation and fear, captivating the public imagination and inspiring countless theories, books, and films. This was more than a crime spree. It was a cultural phenomenon that exposed the anxieties and contradictions of Victorian society. It became a legend, a social phenomenon that gripped the world, transcending geographical boundaries and capturing the attention of people from all walks of life. The story is not just about a killer, but about the societal conditions that allowed him to operate with such impunity, but about a time and place that allowed such horror to flourish, a society riddled with poverty, inequality, and a profound indifference to the plight of its most vulnerable citizens. The Ripper's legacy is a haunting reminder, a chilling testament to the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of even the most advanced societies. That darkness can thrive even in the heart of civilization, that the veneer of progress and respectability can easily conceal unspeakable acts of cruelty and depravity. The enigma of that autumn lingers, like a persistent fog that refuses to dissipate, forever shrouding the streets of London in an atmosphere of mystery and dread. A puzzle with its most crucial piece forever missing, leaving us to grapple with the unsettling reality that some questions may never be answered. The legend endures, a chilling reminder of the darkness that resides within us all, and the enduring power of unsolved mysteries to captivate and haunt the human imagination. Casting a shadow that refuses to fade, a dark stain on the pages of history that continues to fascinate and disturb us in equal measure. Jack the Ripper remains the world's most infamous unsolved mystery, a name that will forever be etched in the annals of crime, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows of even the most civilized societies. To understand the Ripper, we must first understand his hunting ground, Victorian London. The city was a world of extremes, wealth and grandeur for some, squalor and desperation for many. Whitechapel, the Ripper's stage, was a maze of dark alleys and overcrowded lodging houses. Poverty was rampant. Disease and crime were daily realities. Women struggled to survive, often forced into dangerous work on the streets. The fog and smog turned the city into a place where anyone could vanish. In this environment, a predator could move unseen, strike and disappear. The authorities barely noticed the poor until the murders forced them to. Whitechapel's Labyrinth was not just a setting, but an accomplice to the crimes. The city's darkness hid both the killer and the suffering of his victims. In the shadows of London, the Ripper found his perfect cover. The city itself became part of the mystery. In the fading days of late summer 1888, As the leaves began to turn and a chill crept into the London air, a new and terrifying presence emerged from the shadows of Whitechapel, a district already steeped in poverty and despair. The killer's violence was swift and brutal, a horrifying spectacle that left its victims with little chance of survival. His actions were methodical, almost surgical in their precision, and disturbingly precise, suggesting a chilling level of planning and control. His crimes were not motivated by financial gain. There was no evidence of robbery or theft, but for something far more sinister, a dark and twisted purpose that remained shrouded in mystery. The press and public, gripped by fear and desperate to name their fear, to give a face to the faceless terror, seized eagerly on a taunting letter, a piece of correspondence that claimed responsibility for the heinous acts. It was signed with a chilling moniker, Jack the Ripper. Whether the letter was genuine or a cruel hoax, the name stuck with terrifying permanence, and a legend, a dark and disturbing legend, was born in the heart of London. The murders sent shockwaves throughout the world, their brutality and mystery captivating and horrifying in equal measure, challenging the very idea that London, the heart of the British Empire, was a place of safety, civilization, and order. The Ripper's spree of terror, concentrated in a few short, terrifying months, forever etched in the annals of crime, left 5 women dead, their lives tragically cut short, their names forever linked to the Ripper's infamy. The canonical 5, as they would come to be known. Each murder escalated in brutality and depravity, pushing the boundaries of human comprehension, paralyzing the already vulnerable community of Whitechapel with fear and suspicion. Then, as suddenly and inexplicably as he appeared, leaving a trail of unanswered questions, the killer vanished without a trace, disappearing into the fog-laden streets of London. The city was left grappling with the lingering terror, the deep-seated fear that gripped its citizens, confusion, as the police struggled to piece together the fragments of evidence, and a mystery that only deepened and intensified over time, defying all attempts at resolution. The Ripper's shadow lingered long after the final murder, a dark stain on the city's conscience, growing into a global legend, a chilling tale whispered in hushed tones around the world. His true identity forever unknown, lost to the mists of time, his heinous crimes remain unforgettable, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. The world, forever marked by the terror of Jack the Ripper, would never be quite the same. The specter of Jack the Ripper looms large in history, but it's crucial to remember that the Ripper's victims were more than just names etched in crime reports. They were women with stories, each a unique individual navigating the harsh realities of Victorian London. Their lives, though tragically brief, deserve to be acknowledged and remembered. Mary Ann Nichols, known as Polly, a woman struggling to make ends meet, was found murdered in the early hours, a consequence of being turned away from her lodging for lack of the meager sum required for a bed. Annie Chapman, resourceful but struggling against the tide of poverty, trying to earn a living any way she could, was killed just days later, her death even more brutal, a stark illustration of the violence that stalked the streets. On September 30th, a date forever etched in infamy, the Ripper struck twice in a single night, unleashing a wave of terror. Elizabeth Stride, her life story complex and perhaps marked by past travels, likely interrupted in her final moments, and Catherine Eddowes, a woman known to pawn her belongings for survival, was mutilated in a frenzy, her body left as a gruesome spectacle. The final canonical victim, Mary Jane Kelly, a young woman with dreams that would never be realized, was murdered in her own room, a squalid space that offered no protection from the horrors outside, her death the most gruesome of all, a chilling testament to the Ripper's depravity. Each woman lived on the margins of society, struggling daily for survival, forced by poverty into increasingly dangerous situations, making them vulnerable to the predator lurking in the shadows. Their murders exposed the desperation and the abject poverty and vulnerability of Whitechapel's poor, highlighting the social inequalities that plagued Victorian London. The city's fear, already simmering beneath the surface, turned to widespread panic as the killings escalated in both frequency and brutality, gripping the nation. After Kelly's death, as suddenly as they began, the murders stopped, leaving behind a city in shock. But the horror remained, a dark stain on the collective memory of London. The Ripper vanished into the fog of history, his identity forever a mystery, leaving only devastation, a legacy of terror, and a multitude of unanswered questions that continue to haunt us. These women's lives, so cruelly cut short, their potential forever extinguished, became enduring symbols of a society's profound neglect and its failure to protect its most vulnerable citizens. Their stories, often overlooked in the sensationalism surrounding the Ripper, remind us that behind every chilling headline and every gruesome detail, there lies a profound human tragedy, a life lost too soon. The Ripper's dark legacy is not just about the killer himself, but is indelibly written in their lost lives, in the absence of what could have been. Their memory endures, a testament to their existence and a reminder of the injustices they faced. Even as the killer's infamous name tragically overshadows their own, we must strive to remember them, not him. As the murders continued, fear consumed Whitechapel. Every shadow became a threat, every stranger a suspect. Women walked in groups armed with whatever they could find. The police, overwhelmed and outmatched, flooded the streets but failed to stop the killer. Suspicion and paranoia tore at the community's fabric. Vigilance committees formed but often fueled chaos and hysteria. The city entered a state of siege. Doors locked, streets emptied at night. The Ripper's greatest weapon was the terror he inspired. He had no face, no name. He could be anyone. The uncertainty paralyzed the city, holding it hostage to his whims. The fear was as real as the murders themselves. London would never feel safe again. The police launched one of the largest manhunts in British history, but their tools were primitive. Forensics was in its infancy. Evidence was easily lost or contaminated. Crowds trampled crime scenes before police could secure them. Thousands were questioned, but leads evaporated in the London fog. Communication between police divisions was slow and inefficient. The killer exploited these gaps, moving across jurisdictions with ease. The Ripper's motives were incomprehensible to Victorian investigators. They searched for a typical criminal, not a phantom who defied all logic. The case files grew, but the central question, who was he, remained unanswered. The investigation failed, and the Ripper slipped away. The Ripper case became the first true media sensation. Newspapers competed for readers, reporting the murders with lurid detail. The press gave the killer his infamous name, turning him into a legend. Sensational headlines and gruesome illustrations fueled public panic. The media shaped the Ripper's persona, a cunning villain who taunted the police. Copycat letters and wild rumors muddied the investigation. The press and the killer fed off each other, amplifying the terror. The Ripper became more than a man. He became a symbol of urban fear. The image of the shadowy figure in a top hat and cloak is a creation of Victorian journalism. The legend endures, built as much by ink as by blood. The media's monster still haunts our imagination. With no conviction, the Ripper's identity became a playground for speculation. Over 100 suspects have been named, from barristers to butchers. Montague John Druitt, whose death coincided with the murder's end, was a key police suspect. Aaron Kosminski, a mentally ill hairdresser, was another. Some believed the killer was a doctor, others a slaughterhouse worker. George Chapman, a poisoner, was later suspected by lead investigator Aberline. Theories grew wilder. Artists, authors, even royalty have been accused. Each theory has its champions, but none are proven. The suspects remain shadows in history's fog. The lack of answers keeps the mystery alive. Every generation projects its fears onto the Ripper's blank slate. The case endures because it is unsolved. More than a century later, Jack the Ripper's ghost still haunts our culture. The case remains unsolved, a story that refuses to fade. The Ripper is less a man than an archetype, a faceless embodiment of evil. His crimes forced London to confront its poverty and spurred social reforms. The investigation's failures led to advances in policing and forensics. The story has inspired countless books and films and tours. The legend often romanticizes the grim reality of his crimes. The Ripper's mystery is a puzzle with no solution, drawing us back again and again. He is a permanent resident of our collective imagination. The darkness he represents is not just historical, but timeless. The Ripper's name is still whispered from the fog. His shadow stretches into our present day.